Each of the 30 clubs has had players who have been involved with such substances at some time in their careers. There have been many estimates of use, all of them impossible to verify. However, it is a fact that between 5 and 7% of the Major League players who participated in anonymous survey testing in 2003 tested positive. Those figures almost certainly understated the actual level of use, since players knew they would be tested at some time during the year. The use of human growth hormone was not detectable in the tests that were conducted, and as many experts have noted, a negative test does not necessarily mean that a player has not been using such substances. The illegal use of these substances to improve athletic performance may cause serious harm to the user. Apart from the dangers posed to the Major League player himself, however, his use of these substances encourages young athletes to use them. Because adolescents are already subject to significant hormonal changes, the abuse of steroids and other substances can have more serious effects on them than they have on adults. Many young Americans are placing themselves at risk. Some estimates appear to show a recent decline in steroid use by high school students. That's heartening, but the range of estimates is from about 3 to 6%. And even the lower figure means that hundreds of thousands of high school-aged young people are illegally using steroids. It's important to deal with the players who are illegal users, but it's at least as important, perhaps even more so, to be concerned about the reality that hundreds of thousands of our children are using them. Every American, not just baseball fans, ought to be shocked into action by that disturbing truth. The illegal use in baseball of these substances also victimizes the majority of players who don't use them. We heard from many former players who believed it was grossly unfair that the users were gaining an advantage. One former player told us that one of the biggest complaints among players was that a guy is using steroids and he's taking my spot. Through the efforts of the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of California and federal law enforcement agencies, we obtained the cooperation of former New York Mets clubhouse employee Kirk Radomski. Radomski was interviewed by me and members of my investigative staff 4 times, with federal law enforcement representatives participating in all interviews and his lawyer in 3 of them. Radomski identified a number of current or former Major League players to whom he said he illegally sold steroids, human growth hormone, and other substances. We also obtained information from sources other than Radomski about players' illegal possession or use of such substances. These included several former Major League players and former strength and conditioning coaches, some of whom met with us voluntarily. Others did so at the request of federal law enforcement officials. As a result, we gathered sufficient evidence about their possession or use of performance-enhancing substances to identify in this report dozens of current or former players in Major League Baseball. Each of the players was invited to meet with me so I could provide him with information about the allegations and give him an opportunity to respond. Almost without exception, all current players declined my invitation and refused to meet or to talk with me. I carefully reviewed and considered all of the information we received about the purchase, possession, or use of performance-enhancing substances by Major League players. Kirk Radomski provided substantial information about the distribution of such substances, and in many cases, his statements were corroborated by other evidence. That corroboration took many forms, including 11 players admitted that Radomski had supplied them with such substances, just as he told us. Checks or money orders written to Radomski by some players in appropriate amounts. Mailing receipts for shipments of such substances by Radomski to some players. Statements by other witnesses supporting the allegations of use by some players. The names, addresses, and or telephone numbers of many players were found in Radomski's seized address book. Telephone records showing calls between Radomski and some players, and a positive drug test.